And Ms. Bresch, maybe you can help me walk through the different chains of delivery for name brand drugs versus authorized generics. From the manufacturer to the patient, what is the difference in the chain of delivery?
Do you mean in the product or how it's distributed?
Distributed.
So the supply chain for a generic is different than the supply chain for a brand. Primarily,
Authorized generic.
the authorized generic and a generic would be the same channel.
Okay.
So the distribution channels do differ, primarily given the fact that generics are for the retail pharmacy. So there's the supply chain from a pharmacy manager or the formularies differ quite a bit from the brand to the generic.
Well, that leads me to another question. I'm sure there's a really obvious answer, but given my background, I don't know what it would be. Why don't pharmacies just deal with the manufacturer? If a doctor has to write a prescription and a pharmacist knows what the prescription is for, why is there a middle person in the delivery of drugs? So,
sir, for many of, on the generics, for many, we do deal directly with pharmacies, whether they're large chains or if they're independents and have buying.
I guess that's my point. If you can do it for generics and authorized generics, why not for name brands too?
Because most of America falls under a formulary, a payers, and pharmacy benefit managers manage those formularies for insurers or for employers. So they manage what products can be, it's tiered. They decide what products can be on a tier 2 or a tier 3, so whether it's preferred or not preferred. So they serve as an administrator for most employers.
The drug middleman serves as an administrator?
As far as deciding what products are on that they'll reimburse for or what rate they'll reimburse for them.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it theoretically possible that your profit margin could increase with an authorized generic as opposed to the name brand drug?
No, sir. It will be considerably less.
Walk me through how that would be. You're cutting out the middleman, but yet you're making less money. How?
So there are still fees and rebates and discounts on the generic side and the generic channel. They're just not as significant. So we set a wholesale acquisition price at $300, and we estimated that our net, what would come to Mylan would be $200. After you take cost of goods out of that and EpiPen related cost, it will certainly be less than the $50 that we talked about today around the profit per pen that Mylan receives on the brand.
All right, I think you answered this question, but I want you to do it again for me just because it's important. I want this to be on the record. Tell me walk me through the cost all the way down to what Mylan gets for treating it as a name brand versus treating it as an authorized generic.
Sure. So this is the math of, you can see the wholesale acquisition, the Mylan revenue of $274 minus the cost of goods, minus the direct cost, which is the $100 or $50 per pen. And what we've said for the generic, is that the wholesale acquisition would be at $300. Mylan received $200, less cost of goods, less EpiPen related cost. So it will be substantially less than the $50 of profit per pen that we receive on the brand.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.